How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about an upcoming podcast from the New York Times called Nice White Parents. Now, before I get into it and say anything about it, this is not an ad. I repeat, this is not an ad. I don't get any monies from New York Times. I don't get any monies from anybody involved with the podcast at all. But I got to talk about it because it's coming out July 30th and it'll be out there in the world without much kickback. So I got to give the appropriate level of kickback and also the appropriate context so you understand what's going on. So if your kids come to you and say, hey, mommy, daddy, nice white parents, what's going on with the schools? You're going to have this to counteract what's going on with that. But for now, I digress. Let's talk about the podcast and then I'll give you my 2 cents on it. Now, back in 1963, there was a school that was slated to be built in New York City right next to a project, and the school body was going to be mostly Black and Puerto Rican students. But according to the podcast, a bunch of white parents wrote letters to the school board saying, hey, don't build it right there. If you build it right there, it'll be segregated. We want to be integrated. This is brown border education time. We're trying to be, engaged in the integration. We want to be integrated, so build it over here next to our community in the white area so our white kids can go to school with Black and Puerto Rican kids. We can be integrated and it'll all be good. But when the school was completed, none of the parents at the New York Times and the podcast were able to contact sent their kids to the school. Now, they're using that as an example of why today's school system is broken because of quote unquote nice white parents. All right. Now, this is really kind of a crazy concept because people don't really, when they say things like that, they have no idea what's really going on. They're trying to explain the achievement gap between, and it's funny the way they say it because I read an article and it was really kind of clever the way they worded it. They said there's an achievement gap between Black and Hispanic and then white and Asian. You see, so they got Black and Hispanic over here, whites and Asians over here. So if it's about nice white parents, why do you have whites and Asians together? Okay, how about the nice Asian parents? They don't really count. It's all about white. So, okay, I see what's going on. So I guess Asians technically count as a class of colored people. I mean, people of color, or what's a new woke word? BIPOC, Black, indigenous people of color. Do Asians fit in there? I don't know, but I digress. My whole point is that they have Black and Hispanics in one little section and then whites and Asians in another one. And there's an achievement gap in between those two groups and they're trying to figure out why. But see, a little bit about me. I have 2 grandparents that were school teachers back in Roanoke, Virginia in the 60s. Okay, this is right around that same time of integration and all that kind of stuff was going on. My dad was bused a different school. Like, I know all about what's going on here. Okay, so like I got people that are living right now that have gone through it. My grandparents who both passed away, they were teachers during this time. So I have firsthand or like almost firsthand information and experience on the whole situation. Now, the achievement gap can be explained very simply. Black and Hispanic kids generally don't have any kind of early education. And I don't mean going to, pre-K, Head Start or something like that. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about at-home education. All right. If you go to a Black person or an Hispanic person's house, how many books will you see just on the wall for kids to read? Okay. When I was a kid, all I did was read books. Like, I have glasses on. These are not just for fashion. Okay. I would read so much as a kid. I got nearsighted because I was always like this, always had my face in the book. I was a bookworm. I was the hood nerd. That was me. I was the kid in the hood that was always smart, always reading. That's what I was doing. While a lot of other kids were just kind of, outside playing all the time. And, I did that too, but it's like, I like to read. I enjoy reading books. I enjoyed learning from a young age. A lot of Black kids and Hispanic kids will go to kindergarten or first grade not knowing how to read at all. They have no skills. They rely upon the school system. They rely upon the government to teach them some really basic skills. By the time I got to be in kindergarten, I knew how to read a little bit. I knew how to write my own name. I knew how to color and draw, and I had skills. My mother would have me watch Sesame Street. She would do flashcard stuff with me. because at the time before my parents got divorced, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So I was able to have that kind of interaction to have that early education that I needed. So I had a great foundation. So when I got to be kindergarten, first grade, I'm getting straight A's with no effort because a lot of the kids in the hood where I was at didn't have my level of education. So I was way ahead of my class. That's what happens. That's the achievement gap right there. A lot of white kids grew up the same kind of way I grew up. Not all white kids, don't get that twisted. A lot of white kids don't. A lot of white kids go through that same thing of not knowing how to read at all until they get to be 5, 6 years old. I'm talking about no concept of what words really mean at all. Like they can't read. And if you can't read by the time you get to be third grade, if you're behind in the third grade, you're pretty much toast. Okay, so early education before school is really important. That's what makes the difference. But like I was saying, a lot of white kids don't have that kind of education too, but more white kids have it, more Asian kids especially, they have it than black and Hispanic kids. That right there explains the achievement gap between blacks and Hispanics and whites and Asians. All right. And then the whole thing about integration, I mean, really, it's a noble idea. I like the idea of allowing kids to go wherever they want to go. All right. I don't like the whole idea of forcing anybody to go anywhere. Now, the whole busing thing, I can understand the logic behind it, but I think that was not really done well. It should be about school choice. You know, the Democrats want to cry about nice white parents. They cry about the white parents not sending their kids to school where some of them promise to send their kids, but at the same time, they're against the ability to choose that. It's just kind of weird. So you want them to choose to send their kids there, but when they don't, you're mad. It's just kind of strange. I think you should be able to send the kids wherever you want. Okay, that should be the main thing. I like what Trump is doing right now because, you know, you got the virus happening and they're trying to still fund these schools that are closed. It's like, all right, how about we do this? How about we just give the federal monies to the families and then they can choose what they want to do with that money. That money is going to be spent regardless. So rather than just giving it to the schools that are closed, how about you just give it to the parents in a way to where they just can't spend it, obviously, but give it to them, give them the option of how they want to have their students become educated. This whole thing with the online learning, they're just now doing that as of right now in 2020. So it's probably not going to be the best thing. You probably get kids, you know, learning off of worksheets and basic things like that, not really being educated at all. So how about I just do what's best for my child and put them in a program that makes the most sense? You know, that's what I should be able to do with that money rather than being forced. You know, the school choice should be the way to go. That right there could solve a lot of the problems because when I was a kid, I did school choice. They allowed me to go to a different school in the same city. You know, it was like a magnet program. I mean, the program was okay. I guess it was better than where I was going because where I was going, I felt like I was kind of bored. And when I went to the magnet program, it was an even more hood school. Don't get that twisted, but I felt like I was at least having myself a little bit above. Like I got kind of skipped a grade within the grade, if that makes any sense. Like basically what they did at the magnet school was rather than teaching us 7th grade math, they taught us 8th grade math. You see what I'm saying? So I was kind of ahead that way and it made sense. And I think it did kind of help me going forward. But if I'm just kind of stuck, if I'm trapped in one hood school that's bad, that does not challenge me at all, then it's like, what can I do? You see what I'm saying? So in that sense, school choice make a difference, but the left seems to be against it. So I'm not really sure that they're really in favor of trying to close that achievement gap. One thing I will say, obviously, is that it's not about white parents, not at all. If you are able to teach your child 1 + 1 is 2 when they're 2 years old, or give them flashcards and stuff like that, then, I mean, whose fault is that? Even if you got two parents working, sometimes you got the grandparents, they're happy to do it. When I would go to my granny's house in Roanoke in the summertime and lived there for like a month and a half, you know, she had all kind of stuff from when she was a teacher. You had the assignment, you had all kind of cards and books and everything. I read everything. I still got books right now from granny's house, you know, that I can read right now today. Not from when I was a kid, but, you know, books that are more age appropriate. I can still read those right now. I read all the time, every day. A lot of kids, they don't read, they don't have that early education, those skills you need to go forward in life. So trying to blame it on nice white parents is just kind of a lowbrow way of getting clicks to your podcast. And by the way, I heard some of the trailer. These podcasts are pretty garbage. I mean, it's like a bunch of word salad. Nothing really means anything. It's really kind of having an accusatory tone. It's not really good. So if you hear this Nice White Parents podcast, know that it's not on point at all. You could point to this one school and what happened with the white parents, but understand that these people that are trying to criticize them are going to be against school choice. They're going to be against the ability for the people to send their kids where they want them to go. They want them to choose them. They want them to choose to send their kids to a particular school because of what? I don't know. Having those white kids go to the mostly black school would not have improved the black kids' performance. I mean, because it's all about the teachers, number one. Well, number one is about the early education, and then number two, the teachers. That's it. If you are underachieving right next to a white kid with the same teacher, you got to ask yourself, what's going on? What do I not have that my classmate has? When I was in school, when I was young and back in Portsmouth, Virginia, the school I went to, I looked at it recently, and I saw it was a big achievement gap between the black kids and the white kids. You know, it's a hood school, but you got a handful of white kids that go there. You're talking like 80% reading proficiency or something like that for the white kids and like 30% for the black kids. That's easy to figure out. It's not the teacher. It's the same teacher. It's the early education. We come to school generally, black kids now, not knowing how to read, how to write, how to do anything. White kids come with at least a basic understanding of these types of skills you need to carry you all throughout life. That's the explanation for the achievement gap. I can't say it enough. It's not about white parents or anything like that. And there's also the element of school choice. If you encourage more early education and enable school choice, you have a better outcome. But when you don't want to do that, when you say rely upon the government, we'll take care of it, don't do anything, and you can't send your kids anywhere else, then you're gonna have a problem. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that I'm correct about the achievement gap and what causes it? If you think so, let me know why in the comments below. Or am I wrong? Is it about the quote unquote nice white parents? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. I think I pretty much laid my case out pretty well. Like I said, both of my grandparents on my father's side, they were teachers back in the 60s and 70s. My dad was involved with the integration, being bused to different school. The main thing would be the ability to choose where you want to go and getting taught from an early age the basic skills you need to carry you through life. And as you get into school, you should be able to get taught more advanced skills. Okay, once you are 1, 2, 3 years old, you know how to read, write, color, count 1 to 10, 1 to 100. Okay, things like that, basic things. Then once you get to be about 12, 13, 14, now you got to be dealing with tools and heavy equipment and things like that. When I was in school, I worked on like a small airplane, an ultralight airplane, built that with, actual tools. And then I got into high school. I took woodworking, I took a mechanical class, know how to solder and all kind of stuff. Those kind of skills should get taught more in school because a lot of these kids, they graduate with indoctrination, with no skills, and then they go out there in Portland and screech for 2 months straight because that's all they can do. That's all they've really been taught to do aside from just, assimilate into kind of a corporate culture and just do the same thing every day until it's a wrap. But that's all I got for it. And whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.